Good morning, everyone. Pastor George here with our episode of A New Thing for today. And today, I wanted to talk about the Cloisters, going to the Cloisters, because I have an announcement about that, right? I finally got the date. It's going to be September 27th at 11:30 there. I'll send out more details about stuff with this video when I send it out to the church. But I wanted to talk about the Cloisters because it's my favorite museum in New York City. I think it's fun to go to as a Christian, to see the history of Christian art, to see how biblical themes have been interpreted, how we've gotten them today, and also to take us to a time and a place where the Christian imagination was the way that people saw everything in the world. So many things of it was so magical in the ancient world or in the medieval world that we've kind of lost after the Enlightenment. And so it's amazing to go back, and we'll go into all of these things. But in order to talk about what I want to talk about today, we're going to look at the Gospel of Mark. I've preached on this before, the resurrection story. Right, so 16. When the Sabbath was passed, Mary Magdalene, Mary the mother of James, and Salome brought spices so that they may go and anoint him. And very early on the first day of the week, when the sun had risen, they went to the tomb. And they were saying to one another, "Who will roll away the stone for us from the entrance of the tomb?" And looking up, they saw that the stone had been rolled back. It was very large. And entering the tomb, they saw a young man sitting on the right side, dressed in a white robe, and they were alarmed. And he said to them, "Do not be alarmed. You seek Jesus of Nazareth, who was crucified. He has risen. He is not here. See the place where they laid him. But go tell his disciples and Peter that he is going before you to Galilee. There you will see him, just as he told you." And they went out and fled from the tomb, for they were trembling, and astonishment had seized them. And they said nothing to anyone, for they were afraid. All right, love that. And you'll remember I did a whole series on the fear in the Gospel of Mark, right? A few months ago. It's a big major theme in the Gospel of Mark is fear, about who Jesus is and what he represents, right? But the important thing to take away, I want you to take away from this is the fear of seeing Jesus's resurrection, or the resurrection and the fear that it causes. All right, now I'm going to talk about unicorns. So when you think about unicorns, you probably think of something like this. This is like the common way that unicorns are depicted in our culture, right? They're seen to me, okay, as a thing for little girls. That's how I think of unicorns. You have My Little Pony that has unicorns in it. You have the stickers that we give out to little girls that have unicorns on them, right? They all have rainbow manes and rainbow colors and all other things like that, right? Well, I'm sure you might know this already, but unicorns are a medieval thing, right? You can see one right here that's in there that looks like a medieval drawing down there. But again, like a lot of these are, happy, rainbow-colored unicorn stuff, right? And that's exactly what we think about unicorns a lot of the time. But is that what they were like in the Middle Ages? And the answer is no. That's not how they were depicted in the Middle Ages. One of the things that one of the things that the Cloisters is really well known for are the unicorn tapestries. So you can see some of the room that's there. You can see the tapestries, and we're going to look at some of those in person when we go, because this is like the big deal that you get to see when you go to the Cloisters, is you get to see the unicorn tapestries. My school actually had this one hanging up in our school. Why? I don't remember but it was there. Unicorns in the medieval world are very dangerous animals. They're not something that you would mess around with. And you'll see that when you look at the tapestries. You'll see that these things are quite vicious and not something to be messed with in the medieval mind, right? In fact, there was a movie recently, which I saw earlier this week, came out last year, I think, near the end of maybe this summer earlier this summer, a few months ago, maybe in the spring, called Death of a Unicorn. And I actually really liked it. I thought it was pretty good. It was I'm not saying it's Citizen Kane or whatever, but it was fun. And it's a horror, dark comedy movie where the unicorns are the monsters that are trying to come after the people in the movie. And you can see one of their jaws right there, right? And they are very vicious in the movie, I'm sure you can imagine blood and guts and all that type of stuff that horror movies have. But I liked that. I liked it, and they were in the movie. The unicorn tapestries feature very prominently because it's how they figure out what's going on. But these are supposed to be scary. Now, obviously, that one doesn't look too scary, right there, maybe on the surface. But here's the interesting thing about how unicorns were depicted. And by the way, the Cloisters is very proud of this. If you go to their Facebook page right here, right, you can see that that's their picture, it's the unicorn thing. I would recommend, if you are considering going with us, just to look through here, because you can see all the cool art and look how beautiful this place is. This is in the winter, obviously, but it's literally a castle that parts of castles and cloisters and stuff like that they took and moved into New York City, right? Look how cool that is. Man, if I lived there, I would totally be a volunteer or whatever. But cool stuff, right? So you'll get to see all of that when you come with me to see the Cloisters later in September. But the unicorn is oftentimes in medieval art a symbolism for Christ. And that might, again, be like, oh, that's a little different. Never heard of that before. But the reason it is because they have magical properties that when they're killed, they can raise from the dead, right? So, not to spoil the unicorn tapestries, but you can see here on its sides, right? It has all this blood, and that's because it's been stabbed and killed. And it's brought back, and it's placed in this cage, and then it resurrects. And of course, there's lots of debate about these types of things, and oftentimes in medieval arts, just like art today, you can have multiple things that are going on at once. So, these scholars believe that these were commissioned for a wedding, and so it may also be a symbol of love, right? But oftentimes in the medieval mind, right, God and love, and to Christians generally, not two inseparable things, right? That we see God's reflection in love, and love reflected in God. And so the unicorn raises from the dead, and this is a big theme in the tapestries, and this is the final tapestry that's in there that we have. And so the unicorn, right, represents Christ in the fear of the resurrection, because again, this isn't like a little girl being like, oh, look how cute the unicorn is, right? It's like, no, it's back from the dead. You thought you killed this very scary thing, but it cannot be killed. It's back, right? That sort of thing. And so that reminded me of the resurrection, because oftentimes in the Gospels, when people see the resurrected Christ, especially in Mark, but in other places as well, or in Revelation, the beginning of Revelation, when John sees the resurrected Christ, fear is the first thing that grips them, because they see the actual power behind it. Something we probably lose, right? But if you were to see something die and then come back, you would be pretty scared about that, I imagine, right? I think this is like why zombies are, as horror things, probably the closest that we can maybe get to understanding that sort of fear, because there's an unnatural thing aspect to it, right? That something that's dead has come back. There's that unnatural aspect, but there's also, in the place of the unicorn and in the place of Jesus, they've never been stronger, right? They've returned. And so that's what Jesus has to do with unicorns. I bet you didn't think that there was any connection between Jesus and unicorns, but there actually is, and you'll see that in the Cloisters and in a lot of medieval art, where we might borrow a lot of the things, but fail to see the Christian undertones that is pinning the whole thing down. So this is my my pitch to join us at the Cloisters on September 27th. And to check out the museum with us. I'll send out details with this. But Yeah, that's really all I wanted to talk about today. Nothing too exciting or long-winded. Hopefully, the perfect amount of time. And I hope all of you have a wonderful rest of your Thursday, and I will see you on Sunday for worship. Peace out.